of a Nigeria that has a high income per capita and a boosted economic value. Think of a land where poverty can be overcome, where security is guaranteed and healthcare is assured. A land with low unemployment rate because every citizen can get a job. A land that has mastered science and technology from which new useful products are constantly introduced to the market, where sophisticated technology is used to facilitate daily life. Think of a Nigeria where the level of export is higher than import because of superior human resources and technology. If you can conceive it, you can achieve it. This is the firm belief of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. The roadmap to making all these dreams come true can only be found through research and development. TETFund has already begun this journey by inaugurating a standing committee on research and development. This initiative was inspired by the Executive Secretary of TETFund, Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro.
So we have the committee, so we are attracting them and incentivizing them through working with the committee, and this committee are comprising of some of the best across the discipline. We just have to work together. The industry is very important. That is why the academia now, we are reaching out. The reason is simple. The industry needs the expertise of the best out there to understand what they require to add value to their products. You can close your eyes and imagine any industry, whether it's cement, it is food products, call it. They need the expertise of the best there. We said for a long time, Nigeria, we're not seeing textbooks produced by Nigerian authors. Both readership and writing culture has embarrassingly diminished. We couldn't continue that way. TETFund is playing its role to change that narrative.
The committee members are drawn from a pool of Nigerian researchers and innovators, relevant MDAs, and the private sector. They are expected to drive TETFund's intervention policy in public tertiary institutions towards the nation's economic and technological competitiveness.
The committee to include.
The standing committee is chaired by Emeritus Professor Njida Gadzama and is divided into 13 groups, each focused on a strategic sector of the Nigerian economy.
These thematic groups were actually formed immediately. Leadership were appointed in terms of coordinator and deputy coordinator, and we have an average number of between 7 and 20 maximum. The total number of the RDSC member is 165 expertise, cutting across the tripod of the triple helix that we've been talking about. We have pillars from the government, we have from the private sector, industry and business, and we have from the academia. So the amalgamation of these people are the people that form the 165. And for the first time, RDSC is making it happen in such a way that the three of them can sit down together, feel free and discuss issues, and then look at how we want to do R&D. So for the first a week, immediately from the evening of that day that we did the inauguration, for 1 week, 7 days, they were engaged. They were in locked rooms, each of the thematic groups based on the activity sector, to actually deliberate.
To ensure that TETFund's RDSC operates smoothly and all the finer details of its work are sorted out, the agency set up a technical coordinating team to work as foot soldiers for the standing committee. The coordinating team facilitates the work of the other subcommittees, executes time-sensitive decisions between face-to-face meetings of the RDSC, and acts as a sounding board for the Executive Secretary on matters regarding the RDSC Secretariat's roles and responsibilities. In the previous edition of The Paradigm Shift, we received feedback on the activities of the Standing Committee in some thematic areas, as compiled by the TCT. On this edition, in conclusion of last week's episode, we receive the progress reports from the remaining thematic areas.
We have pharmaceuticals. Essentially, when it comes to the issue of challenges like we have the global pandemic, we have what we call for the first time One Health.
The function of the pharmaceuticals industry is to research, develop, produce, and market drugs for use as medication. Its aim is to produce safe and effective medicines with cost efficiency and productivity to the manufacturer. The potential for national or local production of quality-assured, low-cost pharmaceuticals to meet national needs is an issue that has been debated and discussed for several decades. The justification or challenges that initiated the need for local production of pharmaceuticals include the problem of lack of ready accessibility to available pharmaceuticals, high prices for imported pharmaceuticals, and poor quality of some pharmaceuticals. These challenges have prompted the public and political interests in considering local production of pharmaceuticals with the aim to promote self-sufficiency, achieve independence from international suppliers, and develop local industry capacity, while producing foreign exchange through exportation of domestically manufactured medicines and creating new jobs.
Just recently, we had a local state tours of some pharmaceutical industries across the country and some research institutes. And from what we have seen, it's like our pharmaceutical companies are already there. All they need is support from government. And in fact, one striking achievement that we have recorded is the one we saw in Ibadan, Forestry Research Institute. In fact, they have already manufactured something that can boost immunity. It has even been registered by NAFDAC. And then also they have something in place that has to do with the COVID-19 vaccine. We Nigerians should see health as a very important aspect of our life, and we should question whoever is looking for a political office on what he has to address in the health sector. Most of the drugs are manufactured locally in Nigeria. So many of the pharmaceutical industries we visited in Lagos, but drug procurements are contracted to outside companies. So I think there is a need to encourage this local by patronizing them, and that will make them step up and produce what we cannot produce. And that will also make it possible for our global competitiveness. I patronize drugs in Nigeria. Recently I had malaria infection, and I used the drug produced by a pharmaceutical company in Lagos, which I was cured within a few days. So I'm now realizing that yes, we have something to offer. So I think there should be a paradigm shift. Nigerians should patronize Nigerian products.
In this research team is actually known as Petroleum Minerals Extraction and Mining Group. Petroleum is the mainstay of the economic life of Nigeria.
Most pharmaceutical drugs are made via chemical reactions that involve the use of organic molecules. Petroleum is a plentiful source of organic molecules that feed into the drug synthesis process. Some sources cite as much as 99% of pharmaceutical feedstocks and reagents as coming from petrochemical sources. Nigeria is the largest oil and gas producer in Africa. The history of oil exploration in Nigeria dates back to 1903, when Nigerian Bitumen Corporation conducted exploratory work in the country. At the onset of World War I, the firm's operations were stopped. Due to the lack of technological and financial resources of small oil companies, large oil companies took over the exploration of oil in the country. In the pursuit of commercially available petroleum, Shell BP found oil in Oloibiri, Nigeria in 1956. Other important oil wells discovered during the period were Afam and Bomu in Ogoni territory. Production of crude oil began in 1957, and in 1960, a total of 847,000 tons of crude oil was exported. Towards the end of the 1950s, non-British firms were granted licenses to explore oil. Mobil in 1955, Tenneco in 1960, Gulf Oil and later Chevron in 1961, Egypt in 1962, and ELF in 1962. The economy of Nigeria should have experienced a strong increase. However, competition for the profits from oil and damage to the environment created great levels of terror and conflict for those living in the region. Many citizens in Nigeria believe that they have not been able to see the economic benefits of oil.
Because of its nature and because of the cartel it belongs to, it has a global technological drive. This means that the means of extraction of petroleum in Brazil is similar to the same technology that is used in Nigeria. So what the research will tend to enhance, I think, is to talk of issues of aging wells. You put a pipe and you begin to draw, and then at the end of the day, it can only give us much. You need to look at such issues. And there are issues like gas flaring, issues of gas flaring. Gas is a very useful commodity, but if you go to the Niger Delta, it just gets flared. We need to find out technology for harnessing them. If you look at our 1959 law, say maybe you pay S amount if you damage an okra tree, a pawpaw tree, an economic tree. That law is very obsolete and means nothing to the oil companies. And because it has not been reviewed, these laws have not been reduced, so people behave with impunity. They can always obey the law because the amount they are going to pay is very small, even if when you take them to court. You know the issue about Ogoni and all these things. Our laws need to be strengthened, our laws need to be applied. The situation where you have regulatory agencies who go to monitor some of these companies, these petroleum companies, and they depend on them to source their logistic support, weakens your ability to implement the law. We can carry out research on how to manage spill because some of them are caused by third party. Community just go and say, oh, government is far away in Abuja, Shell, ExxonMobil, you are next door neighbor, so you have to provide everything for us. And once you don't do it, they puncture the pipe. And that's an issue. But there's also the issue of aging pipes. Because every pipe has a lifespan. Are these lifespan being observed? Is there any team that is looking at them to make sure that they are using the right equipment to take oil? When we hired people to find out, to carry out what we call the ESI mapping of Nigeria, that's Environmental Sensitivity Index mapping of Nigeria, where you find the flora and the fauna, the sensitive species that can near extinction if they are damaged. It was easy because universities were hired and they went around the coastlines and identified sensitive materials, sensitive plants, species. And the oil companies had to buy the ESI maps from NOSRA, from other agencies that produce them, to make sure that within the area of the operation, they are aware of the sensitive fauna and flora that are found there. So the technology is evolving. There is a research group within what we call the IOCs, the big boys in the club. They are carrying out research on how to extract oil in a more efficient and economic way. For Nigeria to keep touch, first and foremost, our laws need to be improved. And secondly, technology, the technology being used, we need to get to know them.
Nigeria is a proud owner of some of the world's largest deposits of coal, oil, and gas. And the country has a status as Africa's largest oil producer. Currently, only 40% of Nigeria's population is connected to the energy grid, whilst power supply difficulties are experienced around 60% of the time. The Nigerian energy supply crisis refers to the ongoing failure of the Nigerian power sector to provide adequate electricity supply to domestic households and industrial producers, despite a rapidly growing population and demand from the economy. Average daily power supply is estimated at 4 hours, although in some cases, several days can go by without any power supply at all. Neither power cuts nor restorations are announced, leading to calls for a load-shedding schedule to aid fair distribution and predictability. Power supply difficulties cripple agricultural, industrial, and mining sectors and impede Nigeria's ongoing economic development. The energy supply crisis is complex and it stems from a variety of issues. It has been ongoing for decades. TETFund believes that Nigeria cannot simply keep throwing money at the problem without adequate research that can diagnose the root of the problems and prescribe solutions based on scientific data.
With this development, the beginning of institutions and the industry together to form a national R&D foundation, I believe the energy sector can be revitalized back to where it used to be and even more developed than before. We have gone to see almost most of the bigger, larger renewable energy options we have, alternative options we have, like the one in Bayer University, Kano, which is a bit developed, and it is saving a lot of costs for the institution on energy generation.
Energy was given a whole group, and I think is one of the formidable teams that we have. I can say that part of their local visitation took them to almost every aspect or component of the power sector.
Solving Nigeria's electricity supply puzzle is absolutely necessary because energy is an essential production input for industrialization. Industrialization has been instrumental in the economic development of the whole world. The process has improved productivity and allowed for mass production, which has increased standards of living. Human productivity and living standards remained relatively unchanged from the beginning of the agricultural age around 8000 to 5000 BC until the first industrialization in Great Britain started in 1760. Through industrialization, we have seen more products produced in less time, increased time for recreation and leisure, and an increase in real incomes. TETFund recognizes that even agriculture, which is often touted as a low-hanging fruit for Nigeria, cannot truly grow the economy if it remains at the subsistence level. If Nigeria is to become a developed nation, industrialization is key.
For industrialization alone, they reported visitation to nothing less than 46 companies. People coming from government to come and visit industry and talk about research advocacy. This is just happening for the first time.
A country or a nation can never be developed without manufacturing. Most of this industry, if we are looking at our even economy, the reason why we are having all this problem of economy and whatever is because our industry, they are relying on pouring maybe product or raw materials or other things. So TETFund look at it carefully and think of this, there's a need to have even a thematic group that have that title. When we are talking of industrialization, government has to come in. Private partners or investors has to come, and also the businesses. Why? Because we need to improve or to promote the nation economy. Most of the problem they are facing is because of the raw material. It makes production very high. Let's give a typical example of what we are facing now. Before we know all this polythene bag and small nylon bag that we use in a common one in our house is not more than maybe 100 naira, 80 naira. But now the rise is so high, which I don't even know the reason myself. But when we go to industries in Kano during our visit, they say because the raw material before it was in Kano, but the government sold the company to one Indian people and they said they will expand it. So they are happy about this idea because they know that if they expand the production, definitely our youths will have what they are going to do. And also the raw material will be available in Kano, which of course it will make the product to be cheaper. So unfortunately the agreement has been made and the company has been purchased by those people, Indians. But they say still, those Indians didn't do anything related to all these terms of agreement. And they are still producing, but when they produce, instead of us to give it to our people that need it in Nigeria, and even in Kano in specific, but they are even taking it abroad, selling it to Indians. And if you want to buy from Nigeria, the product is here, but you have to buy it through somebody. So the chain, they say, is too high, that is making it costly. So that is why we have seen the sudden rise in price of all these, our own products. So that's why we think there is need for the R&D to be strong in our raw material. When we go to Anambra, Inuit side, they are having problem with electricity. But industries in Kano, they said the major challenge they are facing is the maybe accessing the loan. If they want to take the loan, it has to be through from Bank of Industry. So Bank of Industry will say that, okay, we are going to give you loan, but it has to be your commercial banks. So these commercial banks, because of the tax, so this multiple taxation, it is giving them a lot of problem. And another problem they are facing is that they said they requested the collateral only that is in Lagos, Port Harcourt, or Abuja, and they are in Kano. It's like a challenge to them to ask somebody that is just doing his own business throughout in Kano. You don't have anything going somewhere and you are asking him to give you a collateral from Abuja, from Lagos, from Port Harcourt. So they say those are the major things. But electricity supply, they say, is not their own major problem as at now.
Industrialization cannot thrive in an atmosphere of conflict and insecurity. Keeping Nigeria safe is a task that must be done. The country, over time, has experienced increasing novel security issues that have necessitated military involvement on existing and emerging non-traditional security threats through internal security operations. Boko Haram insurgency, Niger Delta militancy, farmer-herder conflicts, separatist movements, ethno-religious conflicts, and kidnapping and banditry have all taken heavy tolls on the nation's economy. They threaten investor confidence. Defense and security, therefore, cannot be ignored as a subject of in-depth research and development.
Security involving both military and civilian personnel who have been actively engaged in security and defense solutions have been brought on board. And this includes some within the country and others in diaspora, pulling out best practices in the areas of defense. For our group, since the inauguration in September, we've been actively involved in looking at mapping out, security issues that had bedeviled this country, engaging the active actors, both in the military and in civilian, military and civil. Then, looking at other industries that could provide solutions to this. For instance, looking at both hard and soft, military solutions, providing, participation of the military, the civil societies and others, to provide the solution. There are a number of people that are going into research and development in various areas that would impact positively on the challenges on securities, providing solutions, but they had been working in silos. If the military, for example, requires a particular item or resources, it is important that we found out that there could be different laboratories and different areas that have such issues, and to understand the real needs of the Nigerian defense architecture, we could also engage, the research, active research participants from the universities, polytechnics and other areas so that, they could provide solutions, to this. But this has to be done, in a manner to which it will not jeopardize, the national security, in the sense that, it has to be on commission basis, to say that, okay, your lab has capacities in this area, or your group is working on this area for non-military, for non-hardware events. Can you look at this situation and provide the nation, solutions in that respect? We've discovered that there are a number of high-tech solutions that could be developed both for information and intelligence gathering. There are also traditional methods in which the group had looked at how can we make the perception of the armed forces fighting the insurgents more acceptable. Looking at such, how do we improve on aspects like food security in those war-prone zones? How do we look at which company has what fabrication, facility that can be used, for military purposes? What research group is working on which area that would require, specific, intelligence gathering, or in terms of use of either technology or using, native intelligence, to deploy this, to bring about, security solutions.
Investing in research and innovation is investing in Nigeria's future. Knowledge and new solutions will maintain and improve the Nigerian way of life. This is why TETFund has set a new level of ambition to deepen Nigeria's innovation capability and provide lasting prosperity and preserve our global competitiveness.
Because we want to situate this within the context of SDG, and we want to look at it within the AU 2063 agenda, and we want to situate it within the agenda of Nigeria of 2052. So we don't want to do anything that's going to be an oven, as the case may be, so that at least we can actually secure a partnership both nationally, continentally, and internationally.
There is a new dawn emerging for our knowledge economy. The RDSE, powered by TETFund, is the most ambitious research and innovation program in the history of this nation and will help Nigeria rise to the forefront of global research and innovation. And that is the paradigm shift.